Hello students, my name is Dimple Bhasin. I am an assistant professor in CSE department at Chandigarh Polytechnic College. In this presentation, I'll be discussing about the basic concepts that are involved in software engineering, which comprises of system, its characteristics, and the elements of a system. So let's proceed with it. What is a system? The system dependent components that are linked together according to a plan to achieve a specific objective. Now, here the word component may actually refers to certain physical parts like the engine, wings of an aircraft, wheels of a car, whereas it can also be the managerial steps like planning, organizing, directing, and controlling, or it may be a subsystem in a multi-level structure. Also, these components can be simple or complex, basic or advanced. For example, they could be a single computer with the keyboard, the mouse, the memory, and the printer, or it could be actually a series of intelligent terminals that are linked to the mainframe server. In either case, each component is part of a total subsystem and has to do its share of work for the system to achieve a predefined goal. This orientation requires an orderly grouping of these components for the design of a successful system for achieving the predefined objective. Then there are certain implication, or can be seen that three main constraints while talking about system that are a must that needs to happen. Number one is that any system that is to be designed must be designed to achieve a predefined objective. Then the interrelationships and the interdependence must exist among the components. Then third and the most important is the objective of the organization as a whole should have a higher priority than the objectives of the subsystem. So basically these three characteristics we could say, or three implications which are very necessary for any system to exist in real. For example, let's discuss the first point. It says that it should have a predefined objective. Have a structure and a behavior. A boundary of each component should be predefined, or a boundary or an environment should be defined for each module so that that module has a specific interface while interacting with other modules. And when we talk about predefined objective is, for example, I am designing a system for a purpose for online lectures. So what is my predefined objective? That is, I am designing a system for online lectures. Then interconnectivity and interdependence is very must. We'll be discussing these both characteristics further in the slides in detail. Then the objective of the entire system should be higher priority. For example, if I'm working in an organization and the organization aims to educate every student and provide them proper placement, that means that is the overall objective of that organization. So if it has number of departments, for example, it has engineering department, it has sciences department, applied department, then every department has the same function or the same objective. For the engineering department won't have a different objective from the objective of the organization. So that is what is defined in the what the third point implies. Moving further comes the properties of any system in general, whether it may be a hardware or a software or any system that is existing. Number one is organization. Now, what does organization implies? It implies structure and order. It is basically the arrangement of components that are communicating or that are actually described in a defined manner to achieve objective. For example, if we consider an example of an organization, the hierarchical relationship that is starting with the president of the top management to the blue collar workers, such an arrangement portrays a subsystem relationship, defines the authority structure, also defines the flow of command, and formalizes the chain of control or the chain of command. Another example is a computer system is designed around an input device, a central processing unit, an output device, and one or more storage units. When they are linked together, they work as a whole system for producing information. This is how organization works. Second property is interaction, which refers to the manner in which each component functions with another component of the system. For example, in the organization, like we discussed in the first characteristic, in any organization, the purchasing must interact with the production, the advertising should interact with the sales department, and the payroll should interact with the personals. This is how interaction works, or we could say different departments communicate with each other. Another example is in a computer system, the CPU must interact with the input devices to solve the problem. In turn, the main memory holds programs and data that the arithmetic unit uses for computation. This interrelationship between the components enables the computer to perform. That is how interaction works. Then is interdependence. It means that the parts of the organization or computer system or any system depends upon one another. They are coordinated and linked together according to a certain plan. Also, one subsystem for their proper functioning. When we talk about interdependence, one more point has to be noted very clearly, that no subsystem can function in isolation because it is dependent on the data that it receives from the other subsystem to perform a required task. For example, CPU alone is useless, input device alone is useless. They are interdependent for input or for performance on each other. Then next point is integration. What is integration? It is basically, it refers to what we call, the word is holism of a system, that the system exists as a whole. It is basically designed as a whole. in this characteristic especially, how does it work is like synthesis follows analysis to achieve the central objective of the organization. Integration is basically concerned how the system is tied together. It is more than sharing a physical part or location. It basically means that the part of the system work together within the system, even though that each part performs a unique function. Each subsystem or combined or work as a complete system. Successful integration will typically produce a synergistic effect and greater total impact than if each component works separately. For example, in any organization, there is different department. There might be a department for coding, developing, testing. But these all department needs to work in coordination to achieve the objective of the organization, to gain benefit for the organization. This is what is meant by integration. Then comes the central objective, or the last point, or the last characteristics of a system. The last characteristic of a system is central objective. Objectives can be real or stated. The important point here is that users must know the central objective of any software, of any computer application, already in the earlier phases, when the idea that I want this particular system must be very clear to every user that will be working on the system that is being designed. This is what is meant by central objective. Then next, let's move to the different elements of a system. The different elements of a system are outputs and inputs. There needs to be a processor, a control, a feedback, environment, boundaries, and interface. Let's start with first the outputs and the inputs. So when we talk about any system, the major objective of any system is to produce an output that has value to its user. When we talk about inputs, inputs are the elements that are entered into the system for processing, and whereas output is the outcome of processing. For example, use out business brings in human, financial, and material resources to produce goods and services. The important point here is that determining the output is a first step in specifying the nature, the amount, and the regularity of the input needed to operate the system. For example, is the first concern when we're talking about system analysis, the first concern is to determine the user's requirement for the proposed system. That is, specification of the output that the computer is expected to provide for meeting users' requirement. So basically, we need to decide first what is the output of the system in order to decide what is the input that is to be given to the system. That is how inputs and outputs work for any type of system. Then comes the processor. The processor is the element of a system that involves the actual transformation of input into the output. They may modify the input totally or partially depending upon the specifications of the output. This basically means that as the output specification change, so does the processing. In some cases also, that input is also modified to enable the processor to handle the transformation. In short, or in easy words, processor is the one that converts the input to the output. That is, processor is responsible for converting the data into information. Then comes the control, an important part of the elements of system. What is basically a control? The control is the one that guides the system. It is that controls the input, processing, and the output. For example, when we talk about an organization, how does it work here? That management as a decision-making body controls, what does it control? It controls the inflow, the handling, and the outflow of the activities that are going to affect the welfare of any business. Similarly, in a computer system, the operating system and the other software that are accompanying it influence the overall behavior of the system. Output specification determines what and how much input is needed to keep the system in balance. For also in system analysis, knowing the attitudes of the individual who are going to control the area for which a computer is being considered can make a difference between the success and failure of the system. Management support is and supporting the objective of the proposed change. These were all the illustrations or all the examples when we talk about control. In first, we discussed that the decision-making capability of any organization will basically influence the success and the failure of the organization. So where is the control? What is the control? That is the top management act as the control. Then in computer system, the operating system is acting as the control. The operating system is responsible for the processing, for the smooth processing of any information. Then in system analysis, when we are conducting the first phase of SDLC, system analysis is an important and a crucial step. That is the control which will further control the different components or different stages of SDLC. This is how control works, and it is essential to have a controlling body in any system. Moving further, we have feedback. It is an important part again. What is basically a feedback? Feedback can be of two types. Number one is it could be either positive or negative, routine or informational. The first point written in the slide is that it provides the control in a dynamic system. And how it is, what does it do? Feedback measures the output against a standard in some form. For example, my system is required to produce 10 papers, 10 printouts in I could say 1 minute, right? This is what was the capacity of my system. So what is that bar I'm setting down? 1 minute. Discussed in feedback. Any system we have some from any system. So feedback is the only mechanism that will help us to reach that, which will help us to reach that expectations. Now, feedback can be positive or negative. Positive feedback, what will it do? It will reinforces the performance of system. Negative feedback will generally provides the controller with information for action. Positive feedback will be motivating the users to perform better. Negative will help the performers to actually find the where they are lagging and perform, or you could say improve the system in a better way. Also, we can say that in system analysis, phases or system analysis is one important part. Feedback is important in different. May be told that problems in a given application, verify his concern and justify the need for a change. Also, another form of feedback comes when once the entire system is implemented. Basically, this feedback often results in enhancement to meet the user's requirement. So whether it is positive or negative, it will be basically enhancing the existing system. Then comes the environment. Environment is, what is environment? It is the supra system within the which an organization operates. Supra system, that is above all the subsystems and the system. It is the source of external elements that communicate with the system, right? They provide constraints and consequently influence the actual performance of business. That is an example of environment. All the vendors, all the customers, all the system installed in that organization, they form the entire environment. Then comes the boundaries and interfaces. Very important is that a system should be defined by its boundaries. That is the limits that identify its components, its processes, and interrelationships when it interfaces with another system. For example is of a teller system in a commercial bank is restricted to deposits of customers checking and saving account. Teller machine, that is your ATM, What does it do? It is not interacting. Whenever you will enter certain options, when you swap your card, certain options will appear. That is the boundaries of the system. And the way that the machine is interacting with us is the interface. Simple example of boundaries and interfaces. I hope all the components discussed in this lecture will be helpful to the students. Thank you.